everyone and welcome to my reading 31 graphic novels in 31 days reading vlog part 2, the Marvel edition. So in my first reading vlog I read everything on my TBR that was not Marvel related and I uploaded that, so now it is time to get through into the Marvel collection because I have a lot of Marvel graphic novels that I really wanted to tackle for this challenge, and it's about time I did that. I am not going to go through my entire TBR for this right now because it is very long. But what I will say is that I will be putting like the images around here so you can just quickly sort of scan the covers here if you want to. And with that, I think I'm going to make a start right now with Demon Days by Peach Momoko because that's the one that's calling to me at the moment. So let's get into it. I'm currently 2 issues into this and this is really good. I'm really loving how we're taking Marvel characters and then twisting them through into like Japanese folklore and stuff like this. I admittedly don't know that much about Japanese folklore, so I think some of the nuances may be lost on me, but I'm still really enjoying this. I'm definitely going to be looking up more about these like mythological creatures and this kind of thing later on. There is actually a little bit at the end of each issue with like information about these different like creatures, which I find quite useful, but I'm still going to be looking up more about them later on as well because this is really fascinating. But I'm loving seeing how they're twisting things into it. So like there's a snake that's taken over the temple, but it's known as Venom and it's very much venom. There was also this hunter there who was trying to help like deal with this venom infestation, and she had like a wolf or a wolverine with her called Logan who healed really fast, and I was like, Wolverine, which I find quite fun. And then also we're following a main character who is who had a like a maid who has got bright red hair, and she's got the Black Widow symbol like as a hair clip, and she's known as a widow, so obviously that's Natasha. I think that's really cool. I'm loving how like it's woven in, and it looks like on the front cover here, I don't know if you can see that, this blue person here would be Mystique. So I'm interested to see how Mystique is going to be like brought into this. Things like this, I find all of this really fun. I really like how all of this is going. I would say if you are new to Marvel Comics, this is probably actually a good one to maybe read because there's not like that much in here that you'd have to know about because it's not based in the main Marvel comic universe by any means. So you could just dive into this if you wanted to, I think, which I think is pretty useful. I think if you've got basic knowledge after watching like the movies, you should be fine reading this so far. So that's pretty good as well. So if you are new to Marvel Comics but you want to try something, or you just want to try something a little bit different, maybe give this a go. This is by Peach Momoko and I'm really enjoying this so far. I'm currently reading the second part in the Demon Days saga while I wait for some video clips to properly download onto my laptop so I can like edit my first vlog of this. And can I just say I really love like how these creatures are drawn because everything else is in this very sort of faded black and white and red type like style, and then all of the creatures that our main character is seeing are actually like in full colour. I love how that works. I really love how it sort of like really others what she's seeing and things like this. I just think that it's absolutely beautiful. I love how this is done. I've just finished the second Demon Days and this was just as fun as the first. I really liked it that it brought in even more like Japanese folklore and also combined them with more Marvel characters. So you also had Carnage because the first time we had Venom, this time we had Carnage. There was also Illyana, who is one of my favourite Marvel characters of all time. There was also Phoenix as well and a few other people like this, which was really cool. I will say though that if you are not a Marvel fan, you could probably still read this even if you haven't seen any of the movies or anything, because the characters are so subtly done that you probably would still be okay even if you didn't really know who they were, or like even if you didn't get the reference, because you don't really need to know who they are, to be honest, which is quite nice. So if you are new to Marvel Comics and you want to get into them and you want like a really easy way to get in, I would definitely say that this is probably a good one to go for because you don't need to know anything about the wider Marvel universe. You don't need to know like any of the major events that are going on at the moment. Obviously you can literally just dive straight in and you should be fine. I will say though that it may help to have a bit of knowledge on Japanese folklore, but to be honest I'm completely and utterly ignorant in all of that and I managed quite fine, so I think it would be fine. There are actually guides, like I said before, at the end of every issue to do with each of the like folkloric creatures you see, so you get the explanation at the end, so that's fine. But overall, I did really enjoy this, and I've given this 4 stars. I'm now going to go on and try and read 2 more comics because I do not have time to make any sort of significant chunk into my book today, and it's also coming up for a weekend, and that always means that I have no time to read. So I'm going to get some comics done instead, and I'm thinking I'm going to read It's Jeff next because I want something nice and light, you know, I just want something light and fun, and I think Jeff is going to give that to me. So I'm going to start on It's Jeff, who is a genetically engineered land shark, and all of the adventures he has in the Marvel Universe as a land shark. I've just finished the first one, and it was Pool Party, and this literally has taken me 30 seconds to read because this is like an infinity comic, which if you don't know what that means, it means that the comic is just endless scrolling. So what happens is, I don't know if you can see this, but you just carry on like this and you just scroll through and the story continues, which I just think is really, really like useful to have. I do usually prefer swiping like this instead of scrolling like this, but I mean, it's still fine. And then also, I love seeing all of the different heroes that you've got here. So you've got Billy and Teddy, who are now married. You've got Howard the Duck riding a duck. You've also got like Wasp here, who's got a wasp on her like swimsuit, which is really cool. Ant-Man is riding a tiny ant as a tiny person. Then you've got like everybody else here, and then you've also got just Doctor Strange right there reading a book. He's at a pool party, he's reading a book, which I find just so Stephen, unbelievably Stephen. And then what I also really love is that he, like Jeff the Land Shark, dives and then is like going through the water, and you can see his little fin. And they all jump out of the pool and they get really scared, including Devil Dinosaur at the back there. That's just really cute. That's just really, really cute. I love that. That is adorable. That is so cute. I feel like this is just going to be adorable. I feel like all of these are going to be adorable, which is exactly what I need. This is what I need right now. I'm so excited to read adorable things. I'm so excited. I'm going to try and not comment on absolutely all of these because I'll be here all day and they are very, very short, but I may give you a few highlights as I read these because these are adorable. I'm on like the 5th one, I think it is now, and this is just so cute, seeing as he's nicked everybody's like weapons. So he's got like Cap's shield, he's got Sam's wings, he's got like Stephen's eye of Agamotto, Kate's arrows, Natasha's widow's bites, and he's going around pretending to be a hero, and the rest of them are just like, damn it. Because they've been looking for this entire comic for these weapons, and they're like, where the hell have they gone? And it turns out that like Jeff has got them. They originally pointed at Wade, and Wade, like as in Deadpool, and he just sat there eating like popcorn going, I didn't do it. Which is quite fun. I love this. And also what I love is that all of this is completely text bubble like free, so literally you can read this at all ages. You could even show this to like small children and stuff who haven't learned to read yet. It's all there. It's absolutely it's like there's no violence, there's no blood, there's no, like no swearing obviously or anything else. It's specifically designed to be known as Friday funnies, otherwise known as like very short things that they can like Marvel uploads on a Friday. That's just with like short funny one-shot things, and it is designed for all ages, which I absolutely love. So if you want to get your kids into comics or something like this and they're not usually like used to reading or they can't read yet, definitely have a look at all of the Friday funnies, specifically Jeff the Land Shark, because there will be heroes in there that they completely like they know, because it's like Captain America, Doctor Strange, like Falcon, Kate Bishop, people like this. So you've got all people like this in there, so they'll recognise all of them if they're up to date with the MCU or they just know about the MCU, because obviously like Steve, Hulk, people like this, which is great. But it's also just really good fun, and it's just really funny and really sweet, and it's a really good sort of like middle of the afternoon read with your kids, is what I'm saying. It's a really good middle of the afternoon read with the children, which is just wonderful. I absolutely love that Marvel have started doing these types of things, because obviously we want to get kids reading more, but we also want to get adults reading more, and like just getting more people into reading, and comics is a really good way to get people into reading and to encourage them to read and things like this. And I just, even though this has got like no text in it further than just the title, I still think it's a really good one to maybe like introduce small children into the concept of reading and things like this. If you do want to get it for yourself though, you do need Marvel Unlimited because it's exclusive to Marvel Unlimited. I think they may possibly be publishing this like physically. Don't quote me on that though. But if you have Marvel Unlimited and you want to get your kids into Marvel Comics, Jeff the Landshark. That's all I'm saying. Jeff the Landshark. This is a great panel because I love the fact that Jeff has discovered like a pet store, and he's like, I ain't having these pets staying in these cages, so he set about getting all of his other animal friends to come and free them. So here you've got the dinosaur from the Runaways, you've also got Lockheed, who is a dragon, you've got Lucky the pizza dog, and then Alligator Loki, and then I've forgotten who the orange cat is, Goose. My god, it's hot. It's been a very long week. I'm not thinking straight clearly. Obviously, the orange cat is Goose, Captain Marvel's cat, duh. Anyway, but I love the fact that all these animals have come together. I especially love like Lockheed being here because I love Lockheed. But also, I love the Jurassic Park reference with like pets rule all the earth. Sort of like the when dinosaurs rule the earth bit from Jurassic Park. And also the fact that Alligator Loki is here because he was created, if I remember rightly, for the TV show. He was created for the Loki TV show. And they just put him in this. That's brilliant. I love the fact that Alligator Loki made such an impact that he's now in Marvel Comics. He's even got his own, actually, he's got his own little mini-series as well. I haven't read that yet. I'm saving it for when Loki comes out. But I love the fact that Alligator Loki has also made it into the Marvel Universe, even in a small way. I finished It's Jeff last week and had such a good time reading this. I loved reading It's Jeff so much, and I think I'm going to give each and every one 5 stars because it's just so adorable. It was so cute. Like, it was absolutely adorable. You saw from those like little bits that I showed you, but it's just the cutest little thing. And now we're on the other side of the weekend, and I'm going to completely and utterly 180 it and go for the Black, White and Blood series this week, because I am reading Dark Shade of Magic, which is quite a dark book and it's quite a bloody book. Specifically, I should say I'm reading Conjuring of Light, not Dark Shade of Magic, that's the series name. But I'm reading Conjuring of Light, so I also needed something very short to counteract how big this is, because I've got to try and read 137 pages a day to get through it, and Black, White and Blood is generally only 4 issues long, like each story, so I'm going to be reading those just because they're a little bit quicker compared to some of the other things that I've also got on this list, so I can hopefully fly through these and get through to my book a bit quicker. So that is the plan, and I am going to be starting with Wolverine because he is my favourite, and I've also just discovered there's a Deadpool version. I forgot there was a Deadpool version that was already up on Marvel Unlimited, so that is also being added to the TBR because I love Deadpool so much. But I'm going to start with Wolverine. And if you don't know what Black, White and Blood is, it is essentially like a more adult version of Marvel Comics, telling like short stories throughout these characters' lives, and it is drawn entirely in black, white and red, and the red is to represent blood, obviously. And this is going to be a bit darker than your usual Marvel Comics, and I am just ridiculously excited. So I'm going to get going with Wolverine. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you any screenshots from this whatsoever, but we shall see. Either way, I'm going to get going with Wolverine, and I shall update you either when I can comment on one of the panels without it being too bloody or something, or just at the end. We shall see. Either way, I'm now going to get on and start reading this, and I will update you when I can update you on literally anything to do with this comic. I'm not going to mention anything that's too triggering here, apart from to say trigger warnings, so don't worry about that. But yeah, I've been looking forward to reading this series for a long time now, so I'm going to get on and start reading it. I've just had to move the tablet out of the way, because if I don't, I end up with this weird sort of red glow, so there we go. Anyway, I found this panel that isn't too bad, and what I love is that this is telling very short stories from like Wolverine's past and things like this. So the first one was all about him being part of the Weapon X program, which gave him the adamantium exoskeleton and things like this, and made him into this weapon, hence Weapon X. And this second one is based in World War II, where he's working with Nick Fury, this kind of thing. But I am also just loving the colour palette of this. I'm loving that it's just entirely black, white and red. I mean, that's obviously the point of it, but I love that the red is used like in only the most important parts, and it's not used for like shading or anything. It is used to drag your eyes to that specific part of it, because everything else is black and white, so you can't help but like draw your eyes immediately to the red bit, which I really, really like. And I also just like that this is telling like short stories from Logan's past. I can't tell right now if this is going to be good for people who are new to Marvel Comics. I'm going to have to read a few more to make that assessment, but at the moment I'm really enjoying myself. And I mean, I have read quite a few X-Men comics at this point, so I'm kind of used to Wolverine's story at this point, so I will figure out in a minute if this is good for like new people. But at the moment this is definitely enjoyable, definitely like really liking this so far. I've now just finished Wolverine Black, White and Blood, and this I'd say is definitely not for people who are new to Marvel Comics or Wolverine in general, because there's a lot of like talk about like his time in Madripoor. There's several issues or stories in this that are based after like specific X-Men events, and it does point you to which issue you need to read first. But if you don't have like Marvel Unlimited or something, that could be quite difficult to do. I personally just soldiered on and was reasonably fine, but I think that's because I already know about like Madripoor, Mystique and her connection to Rogue. I know a lot about Magic as well, who turns up in this Storm, the fact that Wolverine adopted a young girl at one point, this kind of thing. I know a fair amount about like Wolverine's different like stories and his past and things like this, because I am a Wolverine nerd. I love Wolverine. Anyway, so I wouldn't say that maybe this is the best one to start with. I mean, if you are looking for a way to go into Marvel Comics and you want to see if like Wolverine may be a character for you and you want darker story, like, or if you just want like darker stories or something, you could maybe just dive into this, see what you think, and then maybe go, yeah, actually I'm interested in those stories. I'll then go look up, say, like more Wolverine stories, or like the Reavers, or like Madripoor stuff, anything like this. You could do it that way. I would say you may end up a little bit confused, but I mean, you could do it if you wanted to. Personally, I wouldn't, but you do you. But now, because I am still a day behind in terms of this challenge, I'm now going to read Deadpool, Black, White and Blood, because if I read a Wolverine thing, it's probably time to also read a Deadpool thing, because they go together quite well, because they are always like paired up quite often at the very least anyway. So I'm going to give Deadpool a go. I will probably say that this is probably also not for like new people either, but this could end up different. Who knows? I shall see. Either way, I am really enjoying this series. I think I'm going to give Wolverine 4 stars, and I reckon this will also probably end up being a 4 or 5 star as well. This panel is just great, saying, remember kids, if you can see intestines on the outside of a person, this content is not for you. A Marvel teaching moment. Brilliant Wade Wilson right there. Brilliant, perfect, on point Wade Wilson. Love that. I'm not going to show you the intestines, don't worry. But that is just brilliant. I will also warn you right now that this one specifically has depicted animal death, so please be warned about that. With the Wolverine one, there's just a lot of violence, blood, death, murder, that kind of thing. No specific like animal harm, but there is torture of Wolverine a couple of times, so please be warned about that. But this one specifically on the panel above shows a lot of dead animals, so please be warned. If that like is triggering to you or anything, stay away from this from the outset. I'm now on to Moon Knight's Black, White and Blood, and I really love this like little bit here. This entire issue has all been about like Moon Knight teaming up with Spider-Man, and Peter's like, can I like ask a favour, this kind of thing. And so in the end, Moon Knight does. And I'm referring to him as Moon Knight right now because I don't actually know in this comic who is fronting, if it's Jake or if it's Mark or if it's Stephen. I don't know, so I'm just going to refer to them as Moon Knight for the minute, just so like it's easier that way, just for clarity. But anyway, so Moon Knight lends the Mr. Knight suit, which is literally like this white suit, to Spider-Man, and I love this whole bit where it's like, I'm not loaning you the Mr. Knight suit, Deadpool, but Spidey, no, I love that, and I also love that this is the like very similar dressing gown to what Wade wears at the end of the first Deadpool movie, which I think is really cool. But I just love the fact that Wade has just turned up like, can I borrow the suit? No. I love that so much. I love but I also just love the fact that this is just like Moon Knight and Spidey teaming up for the entire issue, or like this entire story within this issue, and they're like fighting these people who are trying to like take over Egyptian gods or use like Egyptian gods for like their own gain. But before it starts, Peter's going, this is going to be Egyptian stuff, isn't it? And Moon Knight's like, not all of the stuff I do is Egyptian stuff, and then it turns out to be Egyptian stuff. I love that. I will say that the first one in this issue was not my favourite, because I was like, why are we seemingly in the future? I don't know if it's just because I'm not fully caught up on Moon Knight stuff or what, but I was just a bit like, why are we in the future? It was a little bit weird, and I will say that the fight scenes were a little bit difficult to fully get what was going on. But that's fine. I still reasonably enjoyed it. But this second like story within this first issue was definitely better for me. And that's now Moon Knight's Black, White and Blood finished, and this was a really good one actually, or at least there was quite a few stories in here that I really liked. I mostly liked the ones where Mark, Steven, Jake and Khonshu were all talking to each other. I should also probably mention what Moon Knight actually is if you don't know. I do have a full reading vlog linked up above so you can check that out, where I read a whole load of them, like of his stories. But essentially Moon Knight is the avatar of the Egyptian god Khonshu, who works at night to like save people from crime and fight bad guys and all the rest of it, you know, your standard superhero stuff. But Moon Knight also has dissociative identity disorder, and so there is Mark, Steven and Jake are like our main like people who front quite a lot of the time. Mark is a mercenary, Jake is a cab driver, and Steven is a millionaire businessman, and they all sort of like front at different times and fight crimes in different ways. And I really enjoyed those stories the most within this collection, where they are talking to each other. So there was one where they're sitting in a diner alongside Khonshu, and they are talking about what happened that night and what injuries came from whoever was fronting and what they were doing at the time. I really enjoyed that one, along with the one where they are in a cab. Jake is driving, and he gets held hostage by these bank robbers, and it's like him talking to Mark, or like Moon Knight in general, and they are like trying to stop these bad guys, and it's sort of like how they talk to each other and this kind of thing while also being in this situation. Those were the ones I enjoyed the most. I also obviously enjoyed the one with him and Spider-Man, but overall it was also just generally a good time. But I did prefer those ones where we were exploring more in terms of like the dissociative identity disorder and all of the different parts of Moon Knight and all of the different personalities, this kind of thing. So that was the most enjoyable bit, but overall it was still quite fun, and I think I'm going to give this one 3.5 to 4 stars because it wasn't my favourite out of the collections, but it was still a pretty good time. I've now just finished Black, White and Blood Elektra, so this was the Elektra version of this, and this was reasonably fun. I will say that it works better if you know a lot about Elektra, and I admittedly haven't read any Elektra yet. I've been kind of waiting just in case she comes back in like Daredevil, because Daredevil and Elektra are very much like two peas in a pod. If you get one, you generally get the other, so I'm kind of fingers crossed hoping for that. So I just haven't read any Elektra essentially, so it means that a lot of the stories kind of went over my head because I just hadn't read anything like to do with these stories that these short stories are based off of. But I will say that the ones I did really enjoy was where she goes into the black room. She fights Black Widow in the red room. It's very hot today, my brain has melted. Anyway, where she fights Black Widow in the red room, that was a very good one. Because it was really fun to see those two against each other, and also to like bring up the topic of the people that made them who they are and that kind of thing, with like the red room and the Hand, because the Hand very much like brought Elektra to become this assassin kind of thing. So that was a really good one. I did also enjoy the one where she fights Ghost Rider, because Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, tells her she's got to go kill Ghost Rider, and she tries to do it. And watching the two of them fight was quite fun as well. I did enjoy that one. And also the Peach Momoko one, which is based within the Demon Days world. That was also really good fun. The rest of them I was a bit like, what? Because I wasn't quite sure what was going on, because I obviously don't have that context. But overall, I had a pretty good time with it, so I think I'm going to give it 3 stars, and I'll probably read this again after I read a few other Electra comics. It'll probably get put up to a 4 star, but overall it was still a good time. I would not recommend it if you have not read anything to do with Electra like I have, because that was a mistake to say the least. But overall it was still a good time. I had a good time reading it, and like I said, 3 stars, probably going up to 4 once I've read some Electra. I was going to go for a Trials of X today, but then I just decided that I've been writing for so long about Trials of X this morning that I was just like, I need a break from the X-Men. So instead I've gone for a Marvel Voices comic instead, and this one is a Legacy from 2022. I specifically want to talk about the comic that is based around the Wakandan Day of the Dead, because like Shuri is dressed up and T'Challa's getting all dressed up and Carol's come along and things like this, because she needs to meet T'Challa for some reason. It's not gone into, but I really love, first of all, the art style of this. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. I love how it looks slightly cartoony, but it's also like really colourful and everything else. But also I absolutely love as well how like we see the sibling relationship between T'Challa and Shuri, and this is one of my favourite things within this like Marvel world. I love their relationship so much. I love how, like, even though that they are royalty, they very much act like siblings and stuff like this. I very much love that. I love that they're not like always having to be like regal and everything else. They're quite happily like beating each other in like a normal game and like teasing each other and things like this. I just really love that. I think it's a really sweet like element, and I really wish there were like more comics just based around T'Challa and Shuri's relationship. I would love to see more of those. Marvel Voices Legacy from 2022 is a really good one actually. I really enjoyed this. I especially loved obviously that one I just mentioned about T'Challa and Shuri, but I also really liked that we got a one-shot, like 1-page story sort of introduction to Adam the Blue Marvel, because he's only like appeared in like 1 comic before now and that was it, so it's really nice to give him a shout out. I really liked Miles' little story, also Sam Wilson as Captain America's story, all this kind of thing. It was just generally a good time. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars because I had a really good time reading this. I've officially gone completely off track on this TBR, to be honest, because I've just realised that I am not going to be able to make it through the entirety of the Fantastic Four and Empire as well, not with the amount of time I've got left of the month. For context, it's currently the 25th and I've got a lot of things going on, and I also have a lot of like comics I still want to get through, but not that much time, so because we've got the Builders back next week, so I'm not going to have that much time to read anyway. I've also got the last like 100 pages, I think it is, of A Conjuring of Light, and then also this much left to finish of the Library of the Unwritten, so I've just kind of gone for whatever I can quickly squeeze in now. I am going to read Trial of X though. Definitely at some point I am going to read Trials of X volumes 2 and 3 because I really want to carry on with that series. And I've also just spent the entirety of yesterday going through and making the massive reading order for it, and it was like 75 comics long or something ridiculous. It literally took me all day to do, and it nearly didn't actually publish. It was that long. So I definitely want to carry on with that series, but I think Fantastic Four and stuff is out. But this is a roundabout way of saying that instead of picking up anything that was on my actual TBR, I picked up instead Captain Carter. This is a like sort of what if type comic, sort of like the episode where what if Peggy got the super soldier serum instead of Steve and she became Captain Carter, and there was no Captain America, but she still gets like the shield, she's still the superhero, she still ends up in the ice, this kind of thing. And it's following what happens when she wakes up in the ice or gets woken from the ice and goes back to England, and is trying to adjust to a modern Britain while also trying to sort of like deal with the fact that she's kind of being pushed into like being a superhero again, despite the fact that she's only been like awake for like a couple of weeks and she's spent like 70 years in the ice, and everything has changed for her, like technology, the way Britain actually is, all of this kind of thing. And it was a really good comic actually. I was expecting it to be sort of like your standard sort of, oh god, technology is different, that kind of thing, but this actually covered quite a few like important topics, only briefly unfortunately, but it was only a 5-issue comic and there was a larger storyline going on. But it does actually talk about very briefly being like, yes, the UK government decided to leave international things because they thought they could do better without the red tape, and like also talking about like how there is no legal way to get to Britain, like through immigration and things like this. And it actually talks about the problems that we have with like the fact that there is no processing or anything else, and like the only way to get to England to apply for asylum is through smugglers, because there is no legal route, because we've shut down all the legal routes and all of this kind of thing. This is actually in this comic, and I was like not expecting that. Like, I'm so glad it was in there, because these are important conversations to have, especially like now at the moment. It also talked about like Windrush and things like this, and it was such like a take I wasn't expecting. I really wasn't expecting those things to be like brought up within this comic. I was fully expecting it to be, and it very much was in a lot of ways, sort of like the Winter Soldier movie, in terms of like they're dealing with like Hydra's back and all of this kind of thing, and like you've got your captain who's trying to deal with like being back in the modern world and like trying to deal with technology, make friends, make a life, this kind of thing, while also being a superhero, all of this kind of thing. But it also covered those important topics, albeit briefly. It still brought them up, which I still think is a good thing to do. It's a starting point, so then you can like research further if you don't know much about them, and like learn more about them, or you can start having that conversation with people, all of this kind of thing. It was really, really good. I love Peggy as a character anyway, so this was really fun to read. And in the end, I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. I keep on giving everything 4 stars at the moment, but it's all really good. It's not quite tipping into the 5-star point, but it's still a really, really good comic. I still had a really good time with it. The artwork's really good. I love Peggy as a character, everything else, so I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. And now I'm going to try and finish the last, I think it's about 120 pages left of A Conjuring of Light, and hopefully I'll have a little bit of time afterwards to read something else before the weekend. I shall see, because after the weekend I get busy, so, well, I get busy on the weekend as well, so hopefully I can manage this. I don't know, I've only got like 5 days left, 5-6 days left, and I've got to try and read 5 or 6 more comics, which doesn't sound like much, but when you've got 2 other books to finish as well for the Magical Readathon, this may get a bit tight. I'm going to try my best though. So I'm going to get started on this, and hopefully I'll have time to read another comic, no matter how short it is. I will get there when I get there though. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I've definitely just thrown this TBR completely out, and I'm now just going for whatever I can fit in whenever I have time, which is still a solid strategy, but I should probably come up with a better one at some point. I started off so well. I started off so well, and it's just sort of gone downhill in terms of this TBR. At least I'm getting things off the TBR, it's just not the priority stuff I wanted to get to. Never mind. And it's been another weekend and I haven't updated you because I haven't read anything, but I did finish A Dark Shade of Magic. I don't know if I said that, but I did manage to finish that one. Then I tried to continue on with the Library of the Unwritten, but I'm like 262 pages in, so I'm over halfway and I just don't care. I don't know if that's just because I'm really tired again, but at this point this is my 2nd time trying to read this, and I'm not paying attention. I'm not paying attention. I don't really care about it, to be honest. And I mean, I should do, but I'm not kidding. I'm just reading it and going, I'd rather be reading Good Omens. Do you know what I mean when we're talking about angels, demons, heaven, hell, all of this kind of thing, potential wars between heaven and hell, and like angels running around and all the rest of it? I'd rather read Good Omens. I'm just putting out that I'd rather read Good Omens. Anyway, that is not what this vlog is about. This is about comics. So I've managed now to reread Shang-Chi, Brothers and Sisters. This is the first one in the Jean Luen Yang recent Shang-Chi run, and this is a reread for me. This is sort of like a sort of not exactly catch up good starting point for Shang-Chi, that you could possibly start Shang-Chi from here, because it has a little bit about his backstory and about his father being like this head of like this cult and him being basically immortal, this kind of thing, and the fact that Shang-Chi's got a whole load of like half siblings that his father fathered essentially, and created like a whole load of like very, very powerful, very, very like dangerous people within his cult, this kind of thing. I'm trying to find a good bit of like artwork. There we go. So this is what the artwork looks like on the inside, and we are dealing with the fact that you've got all of these siblings. Some of them want to kill him, others want him to become the commander of this like cult because of various reasons, and he's trying to deal with all of this. So it was pretty fun in that sense. I'm going to give it 4 stars again, like I did the first time. If you don't want to deal with a huge amount of origin story and want to sort of more hit the ground running with the Shang-Chi series, and definitely hit the ground running with, or like find out a bit more about his origin without the racist overtones of the original Shang-Chi comics, maybe give this one a go, because I definitely think it's got like a good amount of like sort of setting the scene, I guess you could say, and sort of building it up that way, so it's pretty good in that sense. And then I have also now finally read the sequel, which is Shang-Chi versus the Marvel Universe, where Shang-Chi has now taken over, spoilers here, but this is a couple years old at this point, it's 2 years old, so yeah. Anyway, he has now taken over his father's cult, and he's trying to make it good, in the sense that he's trying to shut down all the drug rings and the weapons rings and all the rest of it, and trying to stop them from doing bad. He's trying to get them to do good, and there's a lot of like infighting between his siblings and all the rest of it. So like, this is not how we've been raised, and like, you're not doing what like the usual society usually does, this kind of thing. And he's trying to fight against that. Meanwhile, he's also coming up against various Avengers, and they're starting to get suspicious. So in the first issue, we are dealing with Shang-Chi and Spider-Man. Let's see if I can find, there we go, you can see it here. He's talking to Spider-Man and also his sister, and they're dealing with a drug ring, this kind of thing. And it was really fun to see those two interact with each other, because I think they've got a very sort of similar sort of sense of humour, so it was really nice to see that, and also to see Peter trying to figure out exactly what was going on and this kind of thing, and also reacting to Shang-Chi's little sister, Esme, who is, all I can describe her as is stabby. She's a very stabby person, is very much stab first, ask questions later, which was quite fun to read about, and seeing like how Peter reacted to that was quite fun. Then also seeing them in a like villain like auction thing. As you can see here, we've got like AIM soldiers, MODOK, people like this, and they're dealing with the Cosmic Cube and Captain America. If you don't know what the Cosmic Cube is, it is essentially the Tesseract. And actually, if you don't know who Shang-Chi is, first of all, watch the movie, and also Disney, pay your writers and your actors. For God's sake, just do it. It's not even going to affect your profits, for God's sake. Just pay people. Anyway, and also read the comics, obviously. But he is the son of a cult leader, and he is the master of kung fu, and there's like a lot of things to do with that, but he's sort of like a martial artist superhero kind of thing. And so it was really fun anyway to see him fight Captain America, as you can see on the back here, and then also fight Wolverine for various reasons. There's actually a mutant in here who can create music and turn it into like physical being to use it in a fight, which I think is really cool. I've never sort of seen that as like a power. I've seen obviously Dazzler, who uses like music within her power, that kind of thing, which I think is really cool as well, which is like a form of this power, but this person's got like a really cool like take on that. And then also seeing him fight the Fantastic Four and interact with the Fantastic Four, that was really fun. Seeing Shang-Chi also interact with his mother was really good, and then also seeing him fight the Avengers at the end. And specifically also, can I get the panel, fight Thor was a really cool fight scene. All of this was really fun. I really like the fight scenes in here, and it was a really fun like storyline. I really want to read book 3, but unfortunately I don't have it yet, because I was waiting to read this one before I bought that one, so now I need to find that or read it on Marvel Unlimited. I may read it on Marvel Unlimited just so I can read it at some point, but either way, I did really enjoy this. I really enjoyed seeing him interact with different Avengers, this kind of thing, and I'm going to give it 4 stars. And now I'm going to try and read maybe one more thing, and then I've only got 3 others to read, which I'll probably read on Thursday, because for context, today is Tuesday, and tomorrow I am out in London all day, because I'm going to the Natural History Museum, and then I am seeing Heather's in the West End as sort of like a treat for the kitchen being finished, which I haven't actually shown you yet. I may show you now. Right, I'm going to turn the camera off, and then I'll quickly give you a quick look at the kitchen, because I haven't done that yet, and I really should. But yeah, so this is our kitchen at the moment. It's very much work in progress, but it's far better than it was before, because before, oh my god, it was a mess. We had, like, for context, the kitchen was about 50 years old and was just starting to fall to pieces, essentially, so very happy at the moment. But yeah, this is the kitchen, And we just really wanted to reward ourselves after all of this was done, or at least most of it was done. So we're going to go to the Natural History Museum because we haven't been in a few years and we really like it over there. And then also because we're in London, we're going to see Heather's because we managed to get the £25 each tickets, which are really actually quite close to the stage. They're actually just on the front row at the side of the stage, which is amazing. This is at the other palace, by the way, because, I mean, we're going to be in London and it's closing this weekend. And I was like, well, I haven't seen Heather's in the West End yet, and I really wanted to. I've seen it on tour, so I was like, can we please go? So we're gonna go because we managed to get tickets. So that is tomorrow. I'll probably take you with me tomorrow, and then I'll probably wrap this up on Thursday with whatever else I finish. So I'm gonna go finish some stuff and then probably go to London. So cue the montage. And with that, it is now September the 1st, and I managed to complete 4 more comics, which takes my total up to 31 comics in 31 days. This was very difficult, I'm not gonna lie. I was finishing some of these off at like 1 AM last night because I was like, I don't care if it's technically September the 1st because it's past midnight. If I haven't gone to sleep yet, it's not September. So that's how I've managed it, but I did manage to read 4 more comics, so I just want to quickly wrap them up here. There was Marvel Fairy Tales. This one covers like a lot of different fairy tales in here, obviously. So there is you've got Peter Pan in here, which had Captain America and Wanda as Peter Pan and Wendy, and like as you can see, you've got like Thor, Hawkeye, no, wait a minute, Thor, Hawkeye, Black Panther and Iron Man as like the Lost Boys, and then you also had Ulysses Claw as Captain Hook, and Pietro was Wanda slash Wendy's brother. There was also in here as well, if I can skip to it, Pinocchio, but instead it was Hank Pym and Vision, and then also Wasp, which was quite fun with a bit with Ultron, and the Blue Fairy was then known as the Scarlet Fairy, so that was really good. I really liked that one with like this idea of like Vision trying to be a real boy and all the rest of it. He was perfect for this one. Then there was also, there you go, you can see the Scarlet Fairy there. Which was obviously Wanda. You've then had an Alice in Wonderland one, and this one was Cassie Lang as Alice, which made perfect sense because obviously Alice grows and shrinks, and obviously so does Cassie. And then as she met the caterpillar who was Ant-Man, that made like that was a really good call on that one. Then you can see like the Mad Hatter's Tea Party here, so you have Pietro as, or That's probably, actually no, that's probably Speed, thinking about it. That's probably more likely Speed. They never actually mention him by name. I automatically assumed it was Pietro, but seeing as we have Wiccan here and the two of them are twins, that's actually probably Speed. So Speed was the March Hare. You had Wiccan here, who was, I'm not entirely sure which one that was, possibly the March Hare. I'm not very good with that in Wonderland, I'm not going to lie, so slightly sort of trying to figure out which one's which. The Mad Hatter, anyway, was Hulkling, and then finally you had Iron Lad as the Dormouse, and then also you had Kate Bishop and Eli, who are Hawkeye, and then also the Patriot. They were the king and queen of Wonderland, and then obviously you had a little Vision here and some Ultrons. That was really fun. I really liked this one. I think everyone again was like perfectly put in there. We then had a weird one, which was the Wizard of Oz, but Dorothy was She-Hulk, and I was a little bit like, why is Dorothy She-Hulk? That's just weird. I didn't quite understand why they used She-Hulk for Dorothy, I'm not going to lie. That was just a little bit weird to me. I was like, why are we using her? I think there was a few others that it could have worked for better, but anyway, then you also had, again, the Wicked Witch of the West was Wanda, and then her sister Petra, aka Pietro, was the one who got destroyed by the house. Then there was also, you had the Scarecrow, who was looking for his hammer, so obviously Thor. The Tin Man was Iron Man, looking for his heart. The Cowardly Lion was Captain America, which was quite interesting. And then the Wizard of Oz was Magneto. And this one was interesting, but I do think this one was a little bit sort of miscast, I guess you could say, because I was like, I didn't really understand why we used like She-Hulk specifically. I think there may have been like a couple of other characters it would have worked for better. Along with the Scarecrow, I think could have been maybe someone else, because I was like, why are we using Thor specifically? It didn't make, like, that didn't quite make sense to me. And then also, then, like, Tin Man, completely understood Tin Man being Iron Man, that makes perfect sense. But then also, I possibly would have made the Cowardly Lion instead Beast, because obviously Beast is a beast, and he looks a little bit lion-y at points. So that would have made more sense to me personally. But I can see that this was mainly based around, like, the Avengers, so I can kind of, sort of, understand that. But there's a lot of other Avengers that they could have used, and there's also, like, members of the Fantastic Four. Things like this would have made more sense to me. Then we also had Little Red Riding Hood, where it was MJ who was the Little Red Riding Hood herself. Then, like, Peter Parker was a little bit like the Woodsman, but a bit more of, like, a useless one. And then also the Wolf was more like a Venom-y type character. I think it would have been better if they made that more Venom, I guess you could say, because that would have made a lot of sense to me. With, like, the disappearing of people and eating people, because obviously that's what Venom does. And then the final one we had was based on an African fairy tale, which was the friendship of the tortoise and the eagle, and this is focusing on more like Charles and Eric of the X-Men. So as you can see here, you've got the shell here that looks a bit like an X in the markings, which made the tortoise character, who was clearly supposed to be Charles, they weren't actually named, but it was obvious it was Charles. He was seen as, like, different, so he was ostracized that way. And then the eagle was obviously Eric, who is Magneto, which was quite an interesting one. It did work quite well, I'd say, because it sort of, like, gave both of them like very similar backstories to what they have in, like, the usual tellings of the X-Men with Charles and Eric. And I think this one was actually done perfectly in terms of, like, the cast and things, because Charles being the one who stays and wants to help his friend and all the rest of it, and being ostracized because he's different physically, whereas Eric has been essentially raising himself for a very long time, because he lost his parents and he had to learn to survive and kill and all the rest of it by himself just so he could carry on living. Made a lot of sense to me. I generally also quite like the art style of this one, and then also it actually reflected at the end, if you don't mind me giving spoilers here, but Eric dropping Charles and Charles breaking his shell and then being paralyzed, which kind of reflects what happens with Charles and Eric at the very least in X-Men First Class, where obviously Eric redirects a bullet and it hits Charles and he ends up paralysed that way. I admittedly don't know how it happens in the comics, but that is mainly because the X-Men are so confusing. They have so many timelines, and that's not even going into the fact that in the comics, even within the same run, it can change as to whether or not Charles is a full-time wheelchair user or if he's able-bodied and walking. It's very confusing. It's sort of like the films in the sense that there's a lot going on, there's multiple timelines, and you just have to run with it. So I haven't admittedly looked it up yet as to how Charles is paralysed in the comics, simply because there's so many different options for that. And I am going to be looking that up when the Hollywood executives finally listen to the unions and actually agree to the terms from the writers and the artists and the actors and everybody else who is striking, and it gives everybody the pay they deserve, and Hollywood starts again and we get towards the point where the X-Men are actually being made. Then I will be looking that up, because at the moment I'm just going to leave it till then, because no doubt by the time I get round to it will have changed or something, because everything that's going on in the world of the X-Men. But anyway, I did still really enjoy this. Like I said, I do think there was a couple of characters who were maybe miscast a little bit, and it would have been better with somebody else in that role instead. I would have liked to have seen more X-Men as well, but I do know that there are a few other tales as well that I don't have yet. They are probably on Marvel Unlimited, thinking about it, but I want to look those up, and then I know that there are X-Men ones there, so I'll be checking those out later. But overall, I did have a good time reading this. I like the art style, I like the way that they did fairy tales, all the rest of it, and I'm going to give it 4 stars. I then also very quickly read The Amazing Spider-Bot Infinity comic series, and this is all about one of Peter's little Spider-Bots that he's got, and this was just a series of one-shots, sort of like It's Jeff, but with Peter's Spider-Bots instead, and it was really cute. I specifically really liked the ones where the bot ends up being taken by Lockjaw, who is an Inhuman, and he ends up being taken by him, and they end up going through the multiverse together, and there's a lot of fun little references throughout there, to the game Contest of Champions, things like this. That was really fun. I also really liked the one where the bot is hanging out with Logan, and he's just I just want a little bit of time at the beach, and Logan's it's my day off, and Peter Parker won't stop calling me, or Spider-Man shouldn't won't stop calling me about something, and he ends up going all the way around the island, and then the two of them just sort of sit together on the beach and ignore Peter for a while, which is quite fun. I quite enjoyed that one. I also really liked as well the one where they go to a toy store, and then Loki arrives and he finds out that his toys are on offer. And it's just with real crying action, and he's just offended by this, and I was oh, that's harsh. But at the same time, that's genius. I thought that was absolutely genius, as a thing. I found that very, very funny, but also a bit harsh. But I did find that really fun. I enjoyed all of this series a lot, and I think I'm going to give it 4 stars as well, because it was just generally a really good time. I loved finding out more about these little bots, and I also really enjoyed just how quick and fun and cute it was. It wasn't as cute as It's Jeff, but it was definitely up there. I will say as well that this has got more writing in it, so if you do want to read these with your kids, you'll probably have to read them to them if they're not that confident with their reading yet, but I still think this is a really good kid-friendly series to read if you want to get your kids into Marvel Comics. I would say the same about Marvel Fairy Tales. Again, this is quite wordy, so it would probably be best to read these with your kids, but they were still a pretty good time and pretty good for if you want to read comics with your kids. I will say though that especially seeing as this is based on fairy tales that they will probably know, so it's good in that sense as well. And then I went on to read 2 Marvel Voices thing, because it was getting towards 1 AM last night, and I was I need to finish this very, very quickly, because even though it was 1 AM on the 1st of September, I was I don't care. I haven't gone to sleep, therefore it is not September yet. It technically still counts, because to me, it doesn't count as a new day until I've gone to sleep. And then I read 2 Marvel Voices. The first one I read was Community, which was all about the Latinx community, and this was written in 2022. And I actually learned something on this, because I did not realise that Sam Alexander, aka Nova of the Champions, so not the older Nova, but the teenage one, I did not know he was Latinx. I had no idea on that one, and the same same with Richter. I didn't know that Richter was either, so that was really cool. I did not know that about either of those characters, so it was fun to learn that, but I did really like this one. I really liked all of the stories in here. Like I said, I learned a little bit more, which was great. And then I also then read Marvel Voices Identity from, if I check my notes, 2021. This one I really liked. Jimmy Woo's story. I should say that this one is based around Asian characters. I really like Jimmy Woo's story because it was sort of like you get to see more of like Jimmy as this like really competent agent kind of thing. That was really fun. I really like Jimmy Woo as a character, but it just reminded me that I really need to, you know, start reading some of his stuff because I haven't done that yet, but I really liked his one. I also really appreciated the disabled representation in here as well. I do like